Hi, I'm Anthony Robinson. On behalf of our entire project team, I'd like to thank the nominating committee for choosing this paper to honor with the Vast Test of Time Award. We're really honored to accept that award. We've been asked by the committee to provide some context for this work, so here it goes. At Penn State, we've had a long-term research interest in crisis management, which began with a pair of NSF grants in the early 2000s. The research in this paper was supported by the Department of Homeland Security Visual Analytics Center, and we were among one of the earliest collaborators for that. We were able to accomplish what we did due to having a team that included researchers who focused on GeoVis, visual analytics, technology development, user-centered design, and large-scale data processing and management. Because of our combined strengths, we were in a really good position to capture and utilize the rapidly growing data generated by Twitter, which was a relatively new platform at the time. The core idea was a relatively simple one. We wanted to figure out how to make useful geographic visualizations of two kinds of locations found in social media. The most obvious source were simply the tweets that were geolocated by a device. The less obvious source was and the much trickier problem was to extract and visualize the places mentioned in the text itself. We thought about this as mapping the tweets from places as well as the tweets about places. A lot of folks were focusing on the first problem, and I think we were among the earlier ones to focus on the second problem. This paper was built on our own earlier work in visualizing place references in text in a space-time attribute visual analytics system developed by Brian Tomaszewski and Alan MacEachren in the late 2000s. For the SensePlace2 paper, we were among the first to leverage geolocated tweets and combine that with geoparsing text, which meant we were applying geographic information retrieval methods to extract and geolocate place mentions in tweets. Therefore, this work was maybe relevant to the large community starting to do research with and about social media posts, and the information retrieval community, the visualization community, which had developed a growing interest in the challenges associated with geoparsing. SensePlace2 was also grounded in real-world use by including an evaluation of practitioners in the crisis management community, and we leveraged what we learned from that in the system design, which really helped. Finally, the paper also seemed to grow in importance over time as we had a very active team of researchers who continued to build on the early work, and it spawned another dozen or so articles just from our group on related topics. Our project team was a truly collaborative group and included folks who worked on very different types of problems. Cartographic design, natural language processing, web mapping technology, user-centered design, any one of those domains alone wouldn't have cut it. We also benefited tremendously from having great examples in the VAST literature to inspire our approach and learn from. We had participated in multiple VAST challenges prior to starting this work, and those experiences were vital towards helping us understand what analytical reasoning with visual interfaces really meant. We couldn't avoid messy problems, we needed to confront uncertainty head-on, and we had to work around software engineering hurdles over and over again. The challenges posed by cascading forms of uncertainty and bias in social media have only grown in the intervening years since we wrote this. And despite the great progress in natural language processing, geoparsing is still a pretty vexing issue, especially given the way people actually talk about and reason with places and locations. For those who might find this kind of problem intriguing, I encourage you to check out the ongoing work supported by the VAST community, of course, but as well by the International Cartographic Association and Commission on Visual Analytics, which I happen to co-chair with Arzu Koltikin. You can check that out in the link below. In conclusion, we'd like to thank everyone at Penn State who helped create the conditions for this work to flourish, and to everybody in the IEEE Viz and VAST communities who provided countless examples of outstanding research for us to learn from. Thank you.